Hello, everyone. Barry Moore at the Better Business Bureau. We're at BBB Sharing, the Ignite, sparked by BBB Studios. And every time I do a podcast, again, I'm still learning how to do it, even though we've done about 400. I learn something every day talking to accredited businesses. And that's the purpose, to take an accredited business and give them more value, and then to help them share their story so more people find their business. So this is going to be one you might want to sit back, strap yourself into a chair, because this topic is something every one of us needs to hear about. So with that, I'll let our guest introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Dr. Marquita Garrett, and I am Director of Clinical Services at Centering Elements in Midlothian, Virginia.
Very good. Now, we talked a little bit before we started talking on the air here. Tell us about yourself. How did you get to where you're at?
Oh, goodness. I have been working with teenagers and children for over 30 years now. In the 90s, I started with a place at the YWCA called Teen Connection. And there I was going into the middle schools and the high schools and talking about different topics that kids could not talk to their parents about. Relationship issues, and sometimes when people think relationship, they think couples. Why do an 8th grader need relationship couples? But relationships with your parents change as soon as 6th grade comes along and those hormones start raging. So I used to tell a story about Jack and Jill and the miscommunication between Jack and Jill. Jack, Jill came tumbling after him, because they went up this hill. Jill thought they were going for a picnic. Jack was carrying buckets to get water, and it just didn't work out. So,
That's a great analogy.
Yes, I use fairy tales. Yeah. I love analogies. But I would talk to the teenagers then, and then I said, I really would like to further my education and become a counselor. At the time, I started counseling. I graduated in 2005 from Wright State University. I went from Connecticut to Ohio, and then from Ohio to Virginia. And I got my doctorates in Virginia. So I made sure to make sure in between there that I took accountability for my kids. So with my bachelor's, it was my first 2 kids. With my master's, it was my second 2 kids. And with my doctorate, it was the beginning of my grandkids. So
I thought you were going to keep going.
Yes.
You got me nervous there. I was going to say, you got 6 or 8 kids?
No.
I only have
4
1.
kids.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
I have
Beautiful
4
family.
kids. But yes, I do love my family. 3 girls, 1 boy. And none of them like counseling whatsoever. They're in the finance, like my parents. But I got into this business in my undergrad, and my father said to me at the time, "You're never going to make money. You shouldn't do this. What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "Well, Daddy, and there's this story called the starfish. And I said, let's say we're walking along the beach, and the beach has put all these starfish all over the beach. And they're dying because they're in the sun, they're in the sand, they're not in the water. I said, if I pick up one and throw it back in the water, I saved that one. I might not have saved them all, but I saved that one." And the big thing about me is I'm Generation X, so I'm a Toys R Us kid, and I'm never going to grow up. So I've been a play therapist for 20 years now. And I play with the little kids, and they keep you so young. And I play with the teenagers, but my favorite client was an 86-year-old. And when I tell people that Centering Elements works with people from ages 4 to 94, I mean that. This 86-year-old Navy vet told me things he would have never told anybody else. His daughter brought him to me because she was worried about his quality of life. His wife of 50 years had just died. And the thing is, with men, you can't survive without us. So
Agreed.
So
100%.
they say within 6 months, he would have been gone.
Yes.
He was my client for 2.5 years. He did degrade because he went blind and he had all these other things that happened, but we played chess every week for 2.5 years. And I learned so much. I always call it learning at the knee, because when you learn from somebody older than you, you get a wealth of information. But I learned so much from him as a retired military. He said when we came home from the Navy, they were calling us baby killers. He was World War II. He said, but when I went to the restaurant to celebrate my 87th birthday, my daughter said, my father, and gave his credentials at retired Navy, and everybody stood up and gave me a standing ovation. He said, I just don't know how the world has changed so much. So, yeah, I love that man. I was invited to his funeral, but unfortunately, as his counselor, I was not able to cross that line ethically.
Yeah. So if I said to you, so you are what I've figured out, and I just met you, but you are accredited business, and we're going to talk about your company and about the partnership, whoever's in the company and what do you do. Mm-hmm. But first, I learned you are very intelligent. I'm not going to take you on because you're way over my Seton Hall political science degree. But I will tell you, or I will ask you, I'll tell you what, just stop it.
Yes.
What comes to mind? Just stop it. Doctor, just stop it.
Bob Newhart. When Bob Newhart said, it's a 6-minute video, it probably was part of his show, but correct. Now is just broiled down to 6 minutes. And when Bob Newhart, I was a big Bob Newhart fan. It's similar to what like Saturday Night Live is now.
Yes.
Carol Burnett, Bob Newhart, all of them. But Bob Newhart is the therapist, and he says it's only going to cost $5 for the first 5 minutes. And he comes out the bathroom, he tells the client, and the client's like, well, I'm afraid of closed spaces. And he said, do you want to die in a closed space? And she says, no, He said, well, just stop it. Just stop it. Don't do it. Stop thinking about it. And she said, that's not how it works. I can't just stop it. He said, okay, I'll give you 1 more minute. And she goes on, and I have an eating disorder. He said, do you want to lose weight that way? Do you want to throw up? And she said, no. He said, well, just stop it. And that's not the kind of therapy we do.
So if I come to you, that's not how you're going to treat me?
That's not how we're going to treat you. Matter of fact, I do have a couch, but very few people sit on it or lay on it. I'd rather you sit for my teens, I'd rather you sit like on a comfy bean bag or, hang out. I have toys in my office, and believe it or not, the adults love the sand tray just as much as the kids do. Oh, my goodness, yes. I had a gentleman who came in. He said his wife made him come. Men hardly ever come unless their daughters, their wives.
It's like men getting a pedicure.
Exactly, So his wife made him come. He didn't see what the problem was, and he was just talking to me about just general stuff, and he was putting miniatures into the play sand, and he had a whole row of army men aimed at this one person. And I said, well, what's going on here?
Right.
He said, oh, I was just playing in the sand. I said, but this seems kind of odd. The army men that were aimed at, and he picked the ones that had the gun in the hand. The army men that were aimed at him was his wife, his mother-in-law, his daughter. He lived in an all-women household.
All gunning for him, he thought.
And exactly. He was just blown away. He said, you could tell all that from a sand tray? I said, I could tell a lot more, but I'm going to let you tell me. So
that's awesome.
Yes.
I encourage people with Ignite. I just explained it to you, spark conversations. And that's why I want the community to come in. We talk, I don't have a black couch. If I ever come to see you, I'm laying on the couch. I'm just going to tell you. And I think that's the greatest way to talk and look at the ceiling. But you don't have to make eye contact that way, right?
You don't. And we have murals on the ceiling. So
You're just listening. But that's what we do here, believe it or not. We listen to each other. We listen. And the dysfunction, we're all dysfunctional. I stand up at every single one of our conversations and say statements that people just can't do. I'm an open book. I mean, it's just, I grew up in a very dysfunctional family. I've struggled. I've had to get help. I've had to talk to people, found God, and everything in my life is just different because it's the weight of the world's off of me, and it's helped that I could see the pain. We have employees, you see it in them, and I just want the best for them. I want them to go home and take care of their kids. I don't want to hear suicide, drugs, and all that. And if we do, we want to head it off, and we always talk about 988, the state has set up for mental health crisis.
Texting,
Well, mental health crisis, you would call that number, and it's the last hurrah before you unfortunately ever killed yourself, and maybe somebody can help you. So we're at 11 minutes already. That's how easy you are to talk, Doc. So do you want to do a part 2? I really would love to.
Okay.
And I want to talk about the practice. Who should come to you? So you're going to do all the talking.
Okay.
So good. All right. This is the end of the first part with the Better Business Bureau sharing at BBB podcasting. And we'll be back with part 2 shortly.